from the Huntington Bank Studio, this is Colts 360.
Colts are back off the bye. We are back in studio with an all-new Colts 360. I am Lara Overton, joined by head coach Shane Steichen. Coach, when you get to that bye week, it's really the longest kind of extended period. You get a couple days out of the building. At what point do you kind of feel like, all right, I'm ready to get back in there. I'm ready to get back to work on this?
Maybe 2 days into it.
Yeah, that's enough. 48 hours, solid.
But it was good. We did some self-scout stuff here in the building. Looked at some things, tried to get some things cleaned up, and then got some time to spend with family and friends, and did that and got to hang out with my kids. So that was great.
And I know the players, when they were all coming back in the building on Monday, you kind of felt that sense of excitement for them to get just that time to take care of themselves, just feel kind of revitalized. What's been the resounding kind of message and direction within your team going into this week?
Just focus. Obviously enjoyed the bye and, get some time to relax. But now it's time to refocus in and get ready to go. We got a hell of a challenge coming up against Kansas City on the road in a hostile environment. So we got to be locked in and start, getting ready to roll.
How much of an opportunity do you have? Obviously, you're getting time away, but to start getting a little bit of a jump start, look ahead to a team like Kansas City?
Yeah, it's huge. Over the bye, obviously, you get some, chance, like I said, to do the self-scout stuff, but then you start diving into Kansas City, watching them. You get to watch the game on Sunday at home, them playing, Denver, which was a hell of a game, a lot of back and forth there, and then obviously watching it again and again and again during this week, preparing for them.
And when you look at Kansas City, they're a team sitting at 5-5, coming off 2 losses in a row. You mentioned the game, of course, last week. A team that appears to have maybe some more vulnerabilities than they have in previous years, yet they still have guys like Patrick Mahomes, they still have Travis Kelce, and they have a defense that is not allowing a whole lot of points. What are those things you have to account for going up against this particular Kansas City team?
Well, I think they do a hell of a job defensively with their scheme. I think they've been doing a hell of a job for years and years there with Steve Spagnuolo, and then obviously you just mentioned, Mahomes and Kelce are 2 of the best to ever play the game. They're a hell of a football team. They've been in some back and forth games. Obviously, we know we're going to get their A game going there, and we got to bring our A game too as well, especially in a hostile environment.
Looking at your A game coming out of Berlin, Daniel Jones has thrown for over 200 yards in every game so far this season, joining only Peyton Manning as the other Colts quarterback to do so over the first 10 games, I should say. How do you maintain that level of complementary offense when you look at what Daniel's able to do in the passing game and obviously the incredible production that Jonathan has had?
Yeah, I think it's having a great balance there, and I think the consistency that our offense has been playing with, we got to continue that consistency, and there's obviously areas to improve on, each and every game, whether you win or lose, you always try to improve in those little areas that you need to clean up. But again, it's the back and forth, it's the balance, the run into the pass, it's being efficient in the red zone. It's all those little things that you need to keep doing over and over, week in, week out, to be successful in this league.
And when you look at those areas of improvement, looking at the sacks, the previous 2 games, 12 sacks over the last 2 outings, where do you identify as those areas with having a little bit of extra time to get ahead this week and tailoring, pass protection and addressing the turnovers?
Yeah, I always look at myself first. I think there's certain things I can call better. I think each sack has a story. I think each play has a story. Each turnover has a story. Some are tip balls. Some that you got to clean up some things. And again, it starts with myself and putting those guys in great position to go be successful.
And I know that Mooney Ward still has some steps to clear before he's available to come off of IR, clear protocol, all of that. But when you just envision this defense and what that looks like with Sauce Gardner, Mooney, and complement to Kenny, Cam, and Nick, how exciting is that for this defense and for this team in general?
Yeah, it's very exciting. When you got 2 elite corners on either side, it definitely helps your football team. And obviously, like you said, Kenny and Cam and Nick in the back end, just a tremendous secondary as a whole. And I think Lou does a great job of putting those guys in position to be successful. So hopefully everything goes good with Mooney and getting him back in the fold.
And it all starts with the guys up front. We hear that all the time. And Neville Gallimore is our guest coming up in the show a little bit later. How do you see Grover Stewart really stepping up the interior of that defensive line now to help all of those guys elevate? We know it's next man up, but he's really kind of shouldering that responsibility with DeForest out.
Yeah, I think Grove's been a staple here for a long time, and he always steps up and he always makes plays. Him and Buckner, obviously, the leaders in the interior D-line with the rest of that group. But Grove just been so steady for us, and to have Neville step up and Eric Johnson step up and Tamawa step up. I mean, all those guys have been playing really good football. and we're just looking to improve week in and week out with that whole group and continue to get better. But like I said, Grove's been doing a hell of a job for us.
And one thing that Neville told me is that they aim to make sure that they're holding themselves and each other accountable so that it's not always coming from the coaches. How have you seen that reflected, not even just among this defensive line, but it feels like that's a common thread among this entire team?
Yeah, you can see it in practice. You can see it in the meeting rooms, just the conversations that go on. And obviously, there's a standard, right? And we got to uphold each other to that standard. And I think when the players uphold the standard to each other, I think that's when it's special. And those guys have been doing that all year, and we got to continue to do that.
Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck on Sunday afternoon in Kansas City.
All right, thank you.
Coming up, the big man in the middle, Neville Gallimore, on stepping up for DeForest Buckner and how Grover Stewart is elevating the defensive line. That's next on Colts 360.
Enter now for your kid's chance to be Junior Blue at the next Colts home game. Visit Colts.com/Meyer Junior Blue to enter today.
Forte Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, proud orthopedic partner of the Indianapolis Colts. At Forte, fellowship-trained physicians and staff provide comprehensive, specialized sports medicine and orthopedic care to active patients of all ages. To learn more, visit forteortho.com.
Joining me now on Colts 360, defensive lineman Neville Gallimore. We are coming off the bye week. We are coming off a trip to Berlin. I got to talk to you. Had some time with the family over the bye week. What'd you guys get to do?
Man, it was actually my son's first birthday that we celebrated this past weekend. It was a great time. He got to eat his first cake, obviously stuffed his face. It was fun cleaning him up afterwards. But just had the family over. It was a great time. And, like I said, the first birthday is for the kids, but, it's really for the parents.
Really for the family. And the birthday falls at a really good time because you got to celebrate it. You got to do, full festivities to celebrate.
Yeah, indeed. It was a great time.
And before we went on camera, you were talking about your experience in Berlin. Tell me just your overall impressions and what you enjoyed about being in Berlin to get that win over the Atlanta Falcons last week.
First, it was cool kind of scratching off the bucket list because that was actually my first time going to Europe. It was my first time flying 9.5 hours. So that was pretty interesting. It was pretty fun. It was an adventure. And I think Berlin was actually really cool. The food was good. It kind of reminded me of back home being in Ottawa. It's kind of like the melting pot of different cultures, but like I was telling a lot of the people, the only difference is, the first language was German as opposed to English or French, but I thought it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. What did you do for that 9+ hour flight? How'd you occupy yourself?
I tried to tire myself out throughout the day. It didn't go as planned. I think I slept for like 2.5, 3 hours.
That's it?
Yeah, and then the rest of the time I was just fighting to get back to sleep. It was crazy.
Well, there's no shortage of entertainment with the group you're normally seated around, both on the plane and then here at the building. This defensive line room is incredibly dynamic. How does that push you guys, elevate one another when it's that next man up mentality? You guys know you're going to be without DeForest Buckner for a few weeks, but you're all going to rally together and take this group to another level in his absence.
It's something that, a lot of people will look at it as like a challenge, but I think we look at it as more of an opportunity. I feel like this group that we have is special because, even though, Big Buck, that's our leader, I think it's kind of just brought us that much closer in the sense of knowing that we got to do our part to make sure that the standard is still met. I feel like, again, even with what Buckner's, what DeForest dealing with, I think he's doing a great job as a leader, just kind of still being around us, still giving us the motivation that we need. And I think it's just kind of put us in a better position to be successful.
How does playing alongside a guy like Grover Stewart elevate you?
Man, it's amazing, man. And he's a freak of nature. There's just things that he does and the way he moves for his size that you can't teach. And one thing I respect about, Big Grove is that selflessness. Like for a guy who's been doing it at a high level for all these years, like he's just all about team. He's a guy that definitely before the game, he always knows the right things to say. He knows how to kind of keep guys locked in. Never makes it about himself. And he's a workhorse. You can tell he's a guy that no matter how he's feeling or what he's going through, he's going to make sure that he gives his best. So for me, this is my 6th year, this is my 6th season and my first time being on this team. And I think that's the one thing that jumped off the tape being here, and it's obviously, I feel like it's brought the best out of me because not just him, but the whole D lineman. You could tell everybody, we want to practice, we want to get better, we're willing to go the extra mile for the guy beside us. And, you know, everybody just wants to win, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to do that. And I think that's great.
Is there a move in particular or an aspect of your game that you've incorporated from what you've learned from Grover?
Really, to be honest, you know, his power is, you know, it's different. You know, the strength that he has, obviously, try to match that is tough. But I just feel like really just the toughness, the effort. If you notice, like even with Grover and again DeForest, for those guys being in the league for as long as they've been and how well and how much success they had, I think the thing that stands out with them is that their effort. You know, it's undeniable. It's all 4 quarters, and I think for me, someone who kind of comes with that background, it's really challenged me to even take it to another step. So for my deal is, I try to make sure I play every down as hard as possible. I want to make sure that I'm flying to the ball and giving my best effort. But apart from like his hands and it's just from what he's seen from playing, for the amount of snaps he's playing, I just feel like the toughness and the effort overall is something that I've tried to make sure I continue to add or enhance to my game, so to speak.
I love that. And you mentioned, obviously, your first season here in Indy. You have the perspective of playing for other franchises prior to becoming a Colt, which is pretty unique within your room because a lot of the guys, this has been the one team they've been with. You know, guys like Grover, Taekwon, Kwity Latu. Of course, DeForest played with the Niners prior to coming in, but now he's been a Colt longer than that. How does that outside perspective maybe influence what you appreciate most about the group that you're in and about what this team is doing right now?
No, for sure. Like, fortunately enough, you know, everywhere I've been at, you know, I've always been the kind of guy, it's never been hard for me to connect and get along with guys on my team. But I think the thing that stood out with is, like, you know, when I first got here, when I realized the amount of great players we had in one room, I feel like it's almost to the point where because these guys are so cool, so down to earth, you know, they never make it bigger than them, that I had to take a step back. And I was kind of just seeing guys go through drill work, the intent behind certain things, how these guys train, how, you know, everybody competes. I was like, man, this is just different. You know, consider that it's almost like you couldn't even tell who's the highest paid or, you know, who's getting paid, you know, the least. Just everybody has like the common theme is that we're going to give it everything we got. We're going to pull guys along. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that I appreciated because, you know, there's guys, rightfully so, you know, they've earned their mark, established themselves in the league, and, you know, usually vet guys, you know, they act like, you know, veterans, like, you know, hey, y'all the young guys, like, I do my thing, you know, got families involved, but everybody's just cool. Like, it's, you know, our room, I like to say, it's a lot. If you ever get a chance to walk into our room, there's a lot going on. We crack jokes all day, you know, it's fun, we spend a lot of time together, but when it's time to go to work, like, you can tell that these guys are serious about their business, from walkthroughs to meetings to when it's time to lock in. Like, I think it's a great thing where coaches don't got to get us going. We're ready. We're ready to get after it, and we know what's required of us.
And I think that's well reflected on the opposite side of the ball with this offensive line, right? And what they're doing for Jonathan Taylor so far this season. That's a group that you guys get to compete against, you know, going throughout training camp and all of that. And I saw a piece where you had a suggestion on what JT's gift should be for the offensive line this holiday season.
And I stand on that. I said that JT, mind you, he's having a fantastic season, but all those O-linemen deserve like F-150s, 4 trucks. Sorry, JT, I'm not trying to be that guy, but, you know, and I'm sure he'll probably say like they're deserving of something great because the way how they just move guys out the way, allow him to create it and do the things that he does so well, you know, you got to give it to the guys up front. Quentin, he's doing a great job, has done a great job just being a leader. And, you know, again, the thing that I appreciate about those guys, you're going to get their best, but when you got somebody on the other side of the ball that's also willing to either coach you up or ask for information on certain things, I think that's great, and that's a testament to why those guys are playing so well and playing so well together. So, yeah, JT, you probably already got on your mind, but yeah, some Brinks trucks. I don't know how you're going to get those Brinks trucks, but if you can, get the 4 trucks, F-150s, man, for the O-line.
Well, cannot wait to see that O-line get to work on Sunday. Cannot wait to see this defensive line get to work on Sunday afternoon against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Neville, appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Still ahead, previewing a showdown at Arrowhead Stadium. Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, on where the Colts offense looks to improve coming off the bye and the unique challenge of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's next.
This season, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is teaming up with the Colts to shine a light on outstanding small businesses. Indy is our hometown, and boosting local business is just one way we want to thank this great city. Go to Colts.com/Anthem Spotlight to nominate your favorite small business today. Anthem and the Colts, helping Hoosier small businesses score. Satisfy your halftime hunger with Snickers and enter for a chance to win a trip to Super Bowl 60 at Snickers.com/halftime. It's time for the Fordham Credit Union Question of the Week. Colts quarterback Daniel Jones leads the NFL in passing yards per game at 265, and Jonathan Taylor leads the NFL in rushing yards per game at 113. Who was the last NFL team to have the NFL's leader in passing yards per game and rushing yards per game in the same season? The 2001 St. Louis Rams with Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk. Visit the Fordham Credit Union Fan Forum section of Colts.com to interact with other fans online. Fordham Credit Union, helping members live their financial dreams.
Backs the pass on first down. He's got time. He's going to load one deep downfield for Alec Pierce into the end zone in double coverage. He makes the catch. Touchdown! A 37-yard strike. Jones to Alec Pierce for the touchdown in Berlin. Under center, Daniel Jones, straight give to Jonathan Taylor. He's well over 100 yards. He adds to his total there, and he gets out. He's at the 30, 35, 40. He's down the left sideline. He's got a chance. Look at Pierce. He's at the 20, 10, 5, touchdown! There's the record breaker for Jonathan Taylor. All-time record for an already all-time great. Jonathan Taylor now has the most rushing touchdowns in Colts history. High formation, counter give to Taylor. Cuts at the 5. He's going to score. Touchdown! Walk-off! The Colts in Berlin with the walk-off touchdown by Jonathan Taylor with his third rushing touchdown today. And in overtime, the Colts send everybody in Berlin home happy. Final score, Colts 31, Falcons 25.
Back with voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, as we wrap up this week's Colts 360. We just heard that fantastic call from Berlin, the Colts victory over the Atlanta Falcons. And we know, Mayte, the bye week, we heard Coach Steichen say it, always an important opportunity for some self-scout. How do you self-scout Matt Taylor as a play-by-play guy coming out of the bye week? Well, this is when you want to be at your best.
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I go back, so I listen to every game. I put every game, the recording of every game, I put it on a flash drive, and I play it in my car. When I drive to and from work, or I'm out running errands or picking the kids up from whatever, I listen to the games in my car. That's what I do. And I take mental notes and try to get that 1% edge, just try to get better every single week. Absolutely.
You eschew a podcast and you listen to yourself. Okay, where are those areas that you're like, going into Kansas City, I'm doing this?
Trying to get, it's all about the description, right? It's all about the description. So, expanding your vocabulary. If it's a pass, what kind of pass is it? Is it a loft? Is it a laser? Is it a rocket? Is it over the middle? Is it outside the number? So you want to be as descriptive as possible, pinpoint the ball, use your voice as an instrument, like all of the basics in terms of play-by-play, but just try to sharpen those, as you said, with less than 2 months of the season. All of these games getting bigger and bigger, right?
I love that. And you're always the most prepared man in the game.
You put me on the spot right there.
I know, I really did. He did not know that was coming. I have some notes for myself, so we'll see coming out of next week. You can lob it back to me and see if I've fine-tuned anything for you as we go into this critical stretch of games in November for the Indianapolis Colts that starts Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead Stadium. Mayte, when you look at the offense, pass protection, turnovers, those have been areas of necessary improvement. How critical will that be, in particular, going up against a defense led by Steve Spagnuolo?
Yeah, it's a tough place to play. Great game planning, game-specific defensive coordinator, just like Lou Anarumo, Steve Spagnuolo. So, those are the two areas that have kind of ballooned up on the Colts these last two games. One was a win, the other was a loss in Pittsburgh. But, the turnovers have crept up. The Colts have 8 turnovers in the last 2 games after having only 4
in the first 8 games. Same thing with the sack total and the pressures allowed. The Colts have given up 12 sacks after, being really good in that department in the first 8 games of the season. Now, it's not all on the offensive line. It's not all on Daniel Jones. It's a little bit of...
Shane said it's a lot on himself, putting the offense in better positions as a play caller.
So it's definitely a combination of everything. But I just think, Lara, the Colts have to get those things corrected. They have to fine-tune those areas, because I just think that's how teams are going to play the Colts. They know if they just sit back and play coverage and only rush 4, Daniel Jones is good enough and very accurate enough, and the Colts have so many playmakers on the outside in this passing game to kill opposing defenses. And Jonathan Taylor still, taking advantage of the run game when teams bring pressure, running into where blitzers are coming from, things like that. But I just think that's how teams know they have to play the Colts to give themselves a chance to disrupt the passing game led by Daniel Jones.
So will obviously be a test for this offense to be able to adapt, especially as the game goes on, based on what Kansas City is bringing and how they are defending you. Looking at Kansas City sitting at 5-5, an unusual position. This is something that a lot of people from a national media perspective consider a must-win for Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're just a fascinating team to me, Larry. Studying up on them, getting ready for this game. As you said, they're 5-5. They've lost back-to-back games. They're an absolute dynasty. They've won 9 straight division titles. They've made the playoffs 10 years in a row. They've been to the Super Bowl 6 times, under Patrick Mahomes. And so you look at all of those things, they're 5-5. They've got 5 wins by at least 13 points. They've got 5 losses by 7 points or less. They're 0-5 this year in one-score games, which is so abnormal to the Chiefs, because coming into the season, they had won 17 straight one-score games. So they had been so good in crunch time. For whatever reason, teams are playing them better in the last 4 minutes. The Chiefs themselves aren't making as many plays down the stretch of games. So, they're on the brink of some uncharted waters right here. So this game against the Colts, it's a prove-it game for them, but it's also a savior season type of a game, trying to get back into the mix of the playoffs on Sunday.
And I will be there with you on Sunday afternoon, much like we were back in 2019 at
right.
Arrowhead Stadium when the Colts beat the Chiefs in that outing on Sunday Night Football. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Colts 360. Special thank you to voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor, Neville Gallimore, and head coach Shane Steichen. We'll be back in studio next week for an all-new Colts 360. Have a great weekend.